system.
But I gotta read
It was out of compliance,
Yeah.
and it was a community sewer system. So, this is my first
Got me
weekend
well, got me even. I was in the
office commissioner. I go up there and Dallas, I'll tell this something. Look, he sent me a letter, say he was gonna, it's $200
Good afternoon. At this time, I'd like to call the Ascension Parish Home Rule Charter Revision Committee to order. We'll start with the invocation and followed by the pledge. All honor, praise, glory, love, respect, and continued humbleness to you, Almighty Father, the beginning and the end and the ultimate control of everything in between. Thank you for your many blessings you've bestowed upon us individually and collectively. Please give us the focus and the oversight and all of the knowledge that we need to continue navigating through this process. We ask these blessings with you through your darling Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Martinez, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll proceed with the roll call.
Mr. Dawson, Mr. Burnett, Mr. P.T.,
Present.
Mr. Trosclair,
Here.
Mr. Gyro,
Here.
Mr. Kazan,
Here.
Ms. Casso. Here. Mr. Lawler. Mr. Martinez.
Here.
Ms. Laurent.
Here.
Mr. Hernandez.
Here.
Mr. Lambert.
Here.
We have 3 absent.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, at this time, we will move to item number 3, the public comment. First, we have Mr. Quint Moore regarding items 3, 4, and 5. Mr. Quint Moore.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman.
Sure.
Actually, I want to speak on each item.
Okay.
All right. I was a little taken back when I first looked at this agenda. Let me ask this committee, have y'all vetted the first sentence of the ABA proposal? Have y'all discussed it? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no. Yet, we're here to discuss an extension on something that you haven't even vetted the first sentence of? I mean, at some point, this has to seem ludicrous. At some point, this pushing of this deadline has to be questioned. I mean, I know none of you citizens put this on the agenda. So who's manipulating this agenda to keep pushing this deadline, and what are their motives? Yeah, I have said it countless times before exactly what I thought all this was, and I'm in it, and I still think it's true today. Because nothing has changed but a complete manipulation of this on a week-to-week basis. Extension to make the recommendations for the placement of the December ballot. Why is that so necessary? Just to vet our own home rule charter has taken all these weeks that y'all have participated. You haven't even vetted the first sentence of the ABA, a complete rewrite. Complete. Total rewrite. Yet we're pushing deadlines back? How do you know you're going to like it? Were you asked to push this deadline back? Because it certainly wasn't in the public. I didn't hear it. I watched the meetings. Was this committee asked to put this on the agenda? Well, who's doing all this? Because y'all aren't, your opinion hasn't been, nobody's asked your opinion. So why do these items keep showing up here? I just seem to be at a loss on what the urgency is and the amount of time that it's going to take to vet this, just like you vetted your own home rule charter, except it's a total rewrite. It means it's going to take triple the time. And so I just would wish this committee would start considering why these things are happening and who's the one making them happen. I mean, it's just a couple important questions that need to be answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Pettit.
I'm a little perturbed about the order things are here on the agenda and in past agendas. We've had no opportunity to ask the ABA so-called experts or salesmen questions, none. We had, and the lady, professor, we had none. And I see here we have a request for extension of time to make recommendations for placement on the December ballot. A request for a time extension was sent to the council. The council approved it. I don't understand why this is back here. If somebody could explain that, I'd appreciate it. I also don't understand item 5, discussion approval to vet ABA proposal and to include in recommendations. Are we going to include it in the recommendations? I wish somebody would explain item 5 in detail and then allow a public comment period so that we could come up and ask questions based on that explanation. Because item 5 as written makes no sense. Now, the other thing I'd like to point out is that there have been meetings with ABA and committee members. We know this. Had a meeting at a church with a meal. We had a meeting at a supermarket. I guess it was an all-you-can-eat kolache fest. I'm sure other members of this committee have been wined and dined. So can somebody explain why? What was discussed? What couldn't be discussed publicly so everybody here and watching can understand where we're going with this? I mean, Mr. PT, would you care to comment?
Point of order? No.
Okay, next we'll have Ms. Kim Christie.
Hi, my name is Kim Christie, and I'd just like to read from Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 1346, Definition of Scheme or Artifice due to Fraud. For the purposes of this chapter, the term scheme or artifice due to fraud includes a scheme or artifice to deprive another of the intangible right of honest services. Failure to disclose a conflict of interest resulting in personal enrichment which encompasses circumstances where the official has an express or implied duty to inform others of the official's personal relationship to the matter at hand, even though no public harm occurred or there was no misuse of office. As to the conflict of interest situation, the basis for its condemnation is that when an official fails to disclose a personal interest in a matter over which he has decision-making power, the public is deprived of its right either to disinterested decision-making itself or, as the case may be, to full disclosure as to the official's potential motivation behind an official act. That's United States versus Sawyer, First Circuit, 1966. Notably, a person who holds no public office but participates substantially in the operation of government, for example, a political party leader, or in this case it would be an appointed official, may be subject to prosecution under an honest services theory. United States versus Margiotta, Second Circuit, 1982. In a failure to disclose case, the failure is itself sufficient to show the requisite intent. Moreover, there is no need to show the scheme came to fruition or caused harm. I like to place this in the official record.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for the public comment period. We don't have any other requests. Okay, now we'll move to item number 4 on the agenda. That is the request to council for extension of time to make recommendation for placement on the December ballot. The floor is open for comments. Mr. Martinez?
Yes, I kind of agree with Mr. Quintmore. It's not often that we do agree on a lot of things, but in this situation, I don't, the council already granted an extension, and I don't know what's the hurry to get this on the December ballot. I don't think we have near about enough time to vet this, nor do I think we finished actually with the original charter, vetting it. So if this is the direction that this is going, I mean, I'd like to make a motion that we just take it up and either go with one way or another, either go with the charter or go with the ABA proposal and send it to the council and let them vet it out if they want to vet it out that quickly. I don't think we can vet it out quickly enough to get it on the December ballot. So that's going to kind of be what the motion that I'd like to make, that we send what we have done so far to the council, if they would have to have it on the ballot in December, and let them decide how to do it.
I mean, I would second that. What I think I understand the motion, Mr. Martinez's motion, and we'll see if it merits any discussion, but I think we can second it and vote if anybody wants to discuss. I do have some thoughts on it by way of explanation if anybody wants to hear them, but I'll second the motion.
Any other comments or questions?
I'd just like clarification of the motion.
Mr. Lawler?
Just to hear it one more
Yeah.
time.
We need to go, if we're going to continue as a committee, we need to go one way or another, one direction or the other. If not, I'd like to send it as is to the council, let them see what the recommendations were, let them look at what the ABA proposal is and the changes that they've made, and let them vet it out. If they can vet it out as quickly as we can, we're not going to vet it out that quickly. They know more about it than we do at this point, I guess.
Any other comments? Ms. Cazzo?
No, I was just pointing out that.
I have a comment on that. I think this is
Mr. Trosco?
what we're talking about here is on the December 18 ballot. What we've already done on the existing charter does not need to be on the December 18 ballot. That is, if we keep this form of government, that's no problem having that sometime in 19. But if we go with the manager form of government, that will have to be on the 18 ballot. So
That's exactly my point.
yeah,
Why
so
waste our
let's
time with
let's not waste it. Let's go ahead and start vetting it. And if it needs to be on the manager needs to be on the 18, let's go ahead and make that on there.
If you want to do that, make a substitute motion. That's fine.
Well, before we go there, let's hear other comments. Mr. Jarrow?
Yes, sir. I mean, a couple of things. Well, I think we agree that I don't know if it wasn't the last meeting, that the stuff that we wanted to try and get on the ballot for December, which we all know was the ABA proposal. And when we accepted this, when we took this, I've heard the elephant in the room comment, but the elephant's been in the room a whole long time. I mean, this ABA's proposal has been out there a long time. It's been there for everyone to see. They had public meetings that said, come in and give me your comment. We had it in our hand day one when we got here. So it's not anything that anybody hid. It's nothing that we haven't had a chance to go over and read as many times as we wanted. As far as meetings, we met with experts on there, and if we had questions, they were there to answer. They were there to answer any question you had, and anybody was free. If somebody called and wanted to ask the other questions, we were there. I was there for that. But we were formed with a charter that actually said May the 31st, and everybody got on board, and everybody knew it. Everybody in here knew what the date was on it, and then we started. Instead of looking at the ABA, which I think is why the main reason this committee was put together, and I think everybody knows that, is it was an option that they had brought forward, and they said, let's take this to the folks and see what they come up with. And the May the 31st was the deadline. As far as the negativity and the accusations, I can't make anybody believe why I do what I do, but I can tell you this, my only motivation is for what I think is in the best interest of Ascension Parish. Do I have issues with parish presidents? No, I don't. But I look at the program, the ABA presented to me, read it, looked at it and look at what we have and say, hey, this is something I think is worth looking at and something we might try. We're not changing anything. This commission is not changing anything. All we're asking is to send it to the council. I think like Tommy said, we can send it to the council. They have to approve it. If they don't, they don't. Then it's still got to go to the people. You know, or take the vote away, take the vote away, take the vote away. Well, the people are going to have to vote to take the vote away. And there are some other avenues that we can go there too. But and then the accusations, like I said, I don't think we need to go there. It's not going to work. There's no manipulation. We're not manipulated. Nobody's trying to manipulate me. Or if they did a real good job of it, and I didn't even realize it. And then it's not a complete and total rewrite. I've heard that several times. And, I mean, I've looked at it, and there's several sections in there that when you change from parish president to parish manager, you got to change the name, simply. But it's not a total and complete rewrite. It's not that. I don't think it's that big a deal to vet it. And like I said, and as far as that goes, I would like to make a substitute motion that we request that we go, let me see, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. A motion that we recommend that the council manager form of government be put on the ballot in December, and that we finalize the word-for-word language of the council manager charter no later than June 18th, 2018.
I would second that substitute motion.
Okay, there's two motions on the floor, but let's finish the discussion. We may get a third motion. Never could tell. Ms. Cazzo, then Mr. Martinez.
I see Malcolm's here with the, when is the deadline to put anything December 18th ballot?
December 31st. December 18th?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Malcolm Duguay, and I'm the bond counsel for the parish. And as such, when there's some type of matter that needs to be put on a ballot, I'm normally the person that's asked to do a timeline. And that happened in this instance. And the original timeline that I prepared had a cutoff date of May 31st in order to get something on the December 8th ballot. That timeline had or has some flexibility in it. And I was asked to see if that timeline could be condensed in order to provide some additional time on the front end to allow, I guess, the committee here to have more time to discuss what they wanted to recommend to the parish council. So I did that. And the second timeline that I have prepared would start the process on July 30th, which would basically give this committee an additional 60 days to consider whatever recommendations they wanted to make to the parish council. And that would still give adequate time, obviously less time, but adequate time to get the any propositions on the December 8th ballot.
Thank you. Any questions to Attorney Dugas? Mr.
I don't have any
Beatty?
questions, but I got a comment. Then why, I don't understand why we need to, the deadline's already been extended indefinitely. I don't understand why article, agenda item 4 is even on the agenda. I don't see how it really has any effect. Our deadline has been indefinitely extended already. Whatever comes out of this committee, if it's in time to get on the December 18 ballot, fine. If not, fine. But I don't really understand why this item is even included on the agenda. If something does come out, it comes out. If it happens in time to get on the 18 ballot, it happens. If not, not. So, and I will say this. There are, to me, this is about a lot more than ABA, because the one I want on the 18 ballot has nothing to do with ABA. That's the single most important thing we can that come out of this committee is one of the ones that I put forward, and it has to do with the Planning Commission. That's what's doing more damage to this parish than any other issues. Okay, that's to me is the most important thing that can come out of this committee. Whether and it's, again, it's going to be up to the council. The final say-so is going to be the council. I don't see if you want to give this document to the council to vet, hey, have at it. But this was not about ABA. I'm reading the resolution right now. A better ascension is not mentioned in this document. Now, if that's not manipulation, okay, I feel like I was misled. Now, the fact is, I knew I was being misled, so it didn't hurt as much, okay? But we were all being misled. This parish was being misled, okay? If not, why, the resolution could have said, vet a better ascension, their proposal. Didn't say that, okay? So that's my comments, but I do want to get to agenda item number 6 tonight, because I would like to make a recommendation to the council with regard to item 6 on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, for clarity, as Mr. P.T. said, our charge was to vet the Ascension Parish Home Rule Charter, period. And I know I've said it time and time again, the living document is the Ascension Parish Home Rule Charter. That's where our suggestions and recommendations should come from, and then go to the parish council. The ABA proposal, as I appreciate it, is a concept. Now maybe we should vote the concept up or down as far as recommendation to the parish council. But that is not a living document as we speak. It is the ABA's proposal. Our charge is to vet the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish. And I think that's where we somewhat got off track and extended ourselves, even having 4 speakers, presenters coming. So we've given the ABA an opportunity to make its presentation, and those professionals came in and did a good job articulating the concept. Not one of those individuals spoke of an article inside of the ABA proposal as we have it. So, from my perspective, I think that the focus, again, is what's inside that charter and what we suggest or recommend as far as changes, or no changes, or leaving it as is. But again, we have two motions on the floor, and we can entertain them as we see fit. The first motion was by Mr. Martinez. For clarity, would you go ahead and repeat your motion, the intent of your motion?
My motion was to send to the council what we have and to send what the ABA proposal to them also, to go ahead and vet it out there, because if you wait till the deadline and it goes to the council, they got how many meetings y'all gonna have between now and there? 3? Okay? So it's gonna take them 3 meetings to vet this thing out after we do it. If we take 3 more meetings to do it, then they're not gonna have time to do it, and it's not gonna go on the ballot. So I'm telling you what's gonna happen. So that was my proposal. If you wanna do it, if you want to get this thing on the December 18th ballot, that's the way you're going to have to do it. If not, it's not going to get there.
Okay.
But that's up to you. I mean, I'm just saying.
Up to us as a committee. But we have a motion on the floor.
That's my motion, is to send it as is.
And it's been second.
You got to take the substitute motion.
Substitute motion going to come first.
I already seconded, but Mr. Jarrow had a substitute motion.
Right. So we'll deal with the substitute, vote on the substitute motion first.
Okay.
Mr. Jarrow, for clarity, would you repeat the intent of your motion?
Yes, sir. Basically
Pull your mic, Mr. Joe.
Right. Basically, recommend that the council manager form of government be put on the ballot in December. And we finalize the word-for-word language of the council manager charter no later than June the 18th. It just, the concerns that we've heard, we're vetting. We've heard some other concerns on some things in the ABA proposal, and I think they've been addressed, and they had some options there that when we went over the vetting that they would make some changes in it. So that's the motion that I have, is just to send it forward so they can start the process, and then we finalize, we vet and finalize the word. I think we can easily do it by June 18th, if not sooner. That's my substitute motion.
Okay, and it was second.
I'll object.
Okay. We have an objection to the motion, the substitute motion that's on the
Discussion.
floor.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. PT.
I mean, that, June 18th, so that would give us 2 more meetings, okay? I would take issue, it is a comprehensive document. It's comprehensive changes, it's got a lot of minutia to it, it's got a lot of items in it, and to digress for a second, I want to, the kolaches at Ralph's are fantastic. I was not given any, and Mr. Trosclair was gracious enough to invite me to discuss ABA's proposal, which I eagerly accepted, and I think we did. We made a lot of headway, but there's a lot of headway to make. There are, I've got some, I don't know if I would call them deal breakers because I don't know that I'm in favor of. I don't know how I'd vote on the big motion forward anyway, but. I got some serious concerns about what, in fact, is going to go forward to the council. Now, my colleague, the District 6 council designee, thinks we can vet this by the 18th. Does that envision, and maybe he can answer, does that envision us tinkering with the ABA language and the verbiage, and are we envisioning, it's my understanding, we just got some documents forwarded by Mr. Trosclair early this week, that there are some ongoing changes. I'm not sure about that, but do we have the final ABA document in front of us? And if so, during our 2-meeting vetting process, are we going to be recommending changes to the ABA document, or is that a deal breaker for ABA? And we got a lot of ABA guys here. Do they have a say in that, or are they okay with that? I don't know. And these are some questions that should have been answered before May 30th of 2018. Okay. And if it hadn't been manipulated, maybe we could have got to the elephant from the beginning. If it was about ABA the whole time, why didn't we start with ABA? Okay? But we didn't. It wasn't my fault. Okay? So that's my comments. So,
Mr. Trosclair.
I think there's been a lot of misinformation that it's nobody's fault in this committee per se, but we were given some poor information on when this had to be returned to the council. But to say that this, nobody knew what was going on here, this whole committee only exists because of the Better Ascension proposal, for one. For two, in the resolution, it was also mentioned to go over any other options to improve it, and that's what a Better Ascension proposal is. Another point is if everybody on this committee hasn't read the proposal by now, then shame on you. And then, Chairman, I object to you saying that this form of government is just a concept. It's the #1 form of government in the United States, and it's a little more than the concept. It's been around about 120 years. I think we are doing ourselves a disservice by not vetting. We're here to vet it. Let's go ahead and vet it. The council, instead of throwing this back to the council on Mr. Martinez's comments, the council gave it to us to give a recommendation. Let's vet the darn thing and give a recommendation. We know the council's going to keep kicking the can down the doggone road if we throw it back in their lap. Let's do what we're here to do and get it done with. Sick and tired of this.
Any other comments? Yes, sir. Mr. Jarrell.
Yeah, just one other comment was, and I'm with Tommy, I just want to, we vote up or down, make this thing go or not go. But what I'd like to do, the reason I want to see it on the December, let's let the people look at it. If they decide yes, then fine. If they decide no, I think we've done some good work on the Home Rule Charter, and we come back together and we put that together, and then we present that to the council and we move forward with that. So that's where I'm at.
Mr. Lambert.
That would give us several weeks to do that. I mean, it doesn't have to just be 2 meetings. We may have to meet a little bit more than would be convenient, but we've got to do whatever we've got to do also to cover that material. And because I think everybody wants to go, just like we did with the charter, over everything. And it may take more time, and some of us may not be able to make a meeting or two, but we owe it to our people and the people that asked us to serve on the committee to spend a little bit more time than just one night a week on it if we have to.
Okay, any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I got one.
Yes.
I
Mr.
think
Hernandez.
we got put on this committee to do what's right for Ascension Parish. And I think a lot of us came in with an open mind. I'm speaking for myself, I don't know about anybody else, but when you find what looks like a better product, you need to dive off into it. I know we started off in a direction, but there's a lot of people in the parish and some people on this committee that thinks the manager part of government would be better. So I'm all for, I know a lot of people are scared to death about losing their right to vote for a parish president. I'm scared for the people out there that's not going to be able to get a right to vote for the form of government that they would like. So I say let's give it to the council, and if it comes out of the council and the people vote for it, we can reconvene next year and do what we have to do.
Mirror image of what Mr. Martinez said.
Pretty much.
All right.
He's my mentor.
Well,
All right, Ms. Cazzo?
I was just suggesting that we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, we got to vote. I mean,
We gotta
but
vote.
you discuss it.
Yeah,
You have the
I have
right
no
to
other
discuss
comment.
it. So no more comments. We have a motion on the floor.
Cover
Yes.
it one more time, the motion. It's Harold's motion?
This is Harold, the substitute motion.
I'm good.
Testing me, I can't remember. Yesterday, man.
Thank goodness we wrote it down.
A motion, we recommend that the council manager form of government be put on the ballot in December, and that we finalize the word-for-word language of the council manager charter no later than June the 18th.
Okay, been moved and second. Now it's time for a vote. Any opposition to that motion?
I mean, I did, yeah, I've already opposed it.
You opposed it.
Objected to
Okay,
it,
well, we
so
need
can
to do a
vote.
roll call vote.
Mr. P.T.,
No.
Mr. Trottenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Jarrow,
Yes.
Mr. Kazare,
No.
Ms. Casso,
Yes.
Mr. Lawler,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez,
no.
Ms. Laurent,
No.
Mr. Hernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Lambert.
Yes.
You have 6 yes, 4 no's.
Okay. Motion carried. All right, we go now to the first motion, Mr. Martinez's motion.
That one.
You can just withdraw this motion.
You just withdraw it?
Yeah, I'm withdrawn.
Okay, it's withdrawn. All right. Next, item 5 is the discussion
Mr.
slash
Chairman?
approval. Question?
So we're not going to start vetting it tonight? We're going to wait till, I mean, now we got to, what I think is an even more arbitrarily imposed deadline to vet this comprehensive document by June 16th, so we're not going to start vetting that now, or did I misread the content of item 5? Are we moving on?
I understand.
My understanding.
Oh, okay, okay, that's my mistake, that's my
Number
mistake,
5
okay.
is next in line.
Okay.
Okay, number 5, discussion slash approval to vet ABA proposal and to include in recommendations the council for consideration of placement on the December ballot. The floor is open for discussion. Mr. Trotler?
If we're going to start vetting, let's go to section 1-01, which is no changes. Section 2 is no changes. And we can start in section 3. And also for the record, we have Attorney Danny Garrett here to answer any questions per the request of Mr. P.T. The last meeting for him to be here to answer questions, so.
Excuse me?
Public comment on 5.
Shouldn't we finish this?
I thought we,
Mr. Chairman?
yes,
Going with Mr. P.T.'s comments earlier, I would like to file a motion that we skip 5, go to 6, 7, and 8 before we start the vetting process.
that's a legitimate motion.
Second.
Because I think, I agree with Mr. P.T., number 6 is probably the hottest topic in and out of the parish.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Hernandez to skip line item 5 and move into line item 6.
I second it.
It's been second by Mr. Lambert. Discussion? Mr. Trosclair?
My only discussion is why do we keep getting around vetting the better ascension document? I don't,
Well, because item 6, the planning commission, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but I think if you look at those sections, it has nothing to do. Do you have any changes in those sections?
what sections?
4-18, 501, and 902.
If I might, Mr. Chairman?
Ms. P.T.?
Both of those agenda items were suggested by me. The section 902, I would actually withdraw 902. I think we can, because we're going to have some time elements here, and if we're, what's vital to get on the ballot in 18 should be what we focus on. So I think we can dispense with discussing and voting upon my recommendation for 4-18 changes pretty rapidly. But, if we're vetting ABA, I mean, we will not get through vetting ABA's document tonight. If we're going to really vet it, which I don't know if we are or not, but there's no way we could do that tonight. So 418 is the one, I've seconded Mr. Hernandez's motion, and if you want to take a vote on it, I would suggest we get to vote and get down to business.
Any questions on that motion? Any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is hereby adopted. So we will move into section 4-18, Plan Commission. Item number 6.
Mr. Cuiser?
Yes, sir.
I think there's some language that was specific language that was proposed. It's not on the agenda, and I don't see it in the packet, but if we get Cinnamon to read that, because that's actual language that I would like this committee to recommend to the Planning Commission, to the Parish Council. So if we could read that specific language?
Can you repeat what you're asking me to read?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yes?
It was in the packet that was on the counter.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
You want me to read 4?
Well, I'm familiar with it, but I would think for the viewing public and the people in the audience, they may not be familiar with the language that we're talking about.
I can read the whole section.
Sure. Proceed.
It's Section 418, Planning Commission. The parish governing authority shall make and adopt and shall be authorized to amend, extend, and add to an official plan for the physical development of the unincorporated areas of the parish, and to change shall to may is what is proposed. Create by ordinance a planning commission with the powers and duties set forth in state law, and shall appropriate funds for the commission as it deems necessary and physically prudent. The added proposed language is, should the governing authority create such planning commission, all actions by the commission shall be advisory in nature. Recommendations to the parish governing authority, which shall, by vote of at least a majority of the governing authority, accept or reject recommendations by the planning commission.
I would move that we recommend that language to the council.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. P.T., second by Mr. Hernandez. Any opposition to the motion? Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gyaro.
Yeah, just maybe you remember, I think we said we wanted to make sure there was no legal issues, and we did get some responses, but I just don't remember what they were.
I'm satisfied that there's no legal issues. I read what was provided by legal counsel. I don't think there's any issues at all. No legal impediments to making this a law of the land in Ascension Parish. But if we had legal, we do have legal here, maybe they would like to weigh in on it.
No, Mr. Legal's not here. Looking for him.
He's outside, I think.
Legal took
Still
off.
back there.
He knew it was coming.
They gave us
They did give us some information.
Yes. Mr. Dugas.
Is that Mr. Dugas meeting with Mr. Garrett too? Dugas with ABA as well?
All right, Mr. Dugas, we have some questions coming from the committee regarding section 4-18, in particular, Planning Commission. Mr. P.T.?
Yeah, Mr. Dugas, we're just looking for a legal opinion on if that is valid. I didn't stick you with this, brother.
I have no comment on that. I was not asked to do anything with regards to, regards to the charter. All I was asked to do was create a timeline.
I'm fine with that. I'm good to go. I'm not the one who, I'm pretty solid and convinced that there's no legal impediments to what I'm suggesting. It wasn't my duty to get you in here. But
If Mr. Guy's here, maybe he can shed a little light on it. Is he here still? Or he left?
He's here.
and he's on ABA's nickel too. So.
We use every lawyer in the house.
Been knowing Mr. Garrett a long time. So, Mr. Garrett, I have a question. Basically, does each parish have to have a planning commission that's under home rule charter? Do they have to have a planning commission that is mandatory?
No. Planning commission is something that you choose to have. A lot of home rule charter governments, if they already had a planning commission, incorporate them into that planning commission, into the charter. Now, the thing about having them in your charter is if they're in your charter, it takes a charter amendment to get rid of them, as opposed to, like if you had a police jury, they can have zoning. Police juries can do zoning, but
the question is, are we mandated to have a planning commission in each parish by state law?
If you have comprehensive zoning.
Huh?
If you have comprehensive zoning, yes,
Which we do. Okay.
Any other questions to the attorney?
I have a brief question. I hate to
Yes.
do this to a fellow attorney because I know you didn't prepare for this at all. Are there any planning commissions in this state that are elected?
I am unaware of any planning commission elected. I have never heard of that, actually.
Me either. I was just wondering, thinking.
I mean, I'm familiar with a number of parish governments around the state, and I've never heard of a planning commission being elected.
That'd be an interesting concept if we had an elected planning commission, something we may want to look at.
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
We had answer to the question of 418 from Ornell Parrington. I'm a construction hand. It's wrote in legalese. I can't really find the answer to the question, but
well,
it might be something that Mr. Danny can look at and
translate.
Translate, yeah, or Aaron, one of y'all. I just build stuff for a living.
I don't think my malpractice insurance covers legal opinions while I sit on this committee. So I'm not going to offer a legal opinion on it.
Well, I'll offer a practical opinion. Okay. What I'm suggesting, what's being suggested is change shall create a planning commission to may create a planning commission. So if that has some legal effect that I'm not aware of, I mean, I think that's, if you have to have a planning commission, that entire section is superfluous anyway. Okay. So you're not having, that has no operative effect. And the more important provision that I'm suggesting is making the planning commission's actions merely recommendations to the parish council. And I don't know I think Mr. Garrett's done some work in some other places. Do other municipalities and parishes do that?
I'm parish attorney for West Feliciana, for example. They have a planning commission, planning zoning commission there, and their zoning ordinance determines which items require or are merely a recommendation by the planning commission to the council, and then the council has to make the decision. For example, a rezoning.
Well, and we're not talking about rezonings.
But yeah. As opposed to certain items which are deemed administrative, where there is an objective requirement, and the planning commission reviews whether or not the objective requirement was met. So that's generally how you differentiate. In fact, there's even stuff that your planning director can do without even taking to the planning commission. For example, somebody comes in and they meet the objective requirement, you issue a permit. But it's sort of a three-tiered process. And then someone who is, now what the council also, in most setups, what the council also serves as is an appeal body. If somebody gets an adverse opinion from the planning commission, they can then appeal that, and so the council could override the planning commission's decision. So those are the various functions that how the council and the planning commission work together.
So my question, is there something that prohibits the council becoming the final say-so? Is there something that prohibits a planning, take for instance a subdivision preliminary plat, is there something that prohibits the planning commission's actions being advisory only and the final say-so being the parish council? Is there something that prohibits that?
I don't think so. I think you could draft the ordinance to the effect that the council ends up making all the decisions.
Or well, we can do a charter that makes the council the final authority too as well, correct?
Well, but I mean, I think if in this it says you shall have a planning, I mean, I'm looking at just y'all's charter, y'all shall adopt and amend, extend, that the governing authority is actually doing all this, and they shall create by ordinance a planning commission with the powers and duties set forth in state law and shall appropriate funds for the commission. So you then, there are some guidelines in state law, but then ultimately your process is dictated by your parish's zoning ordinance. Not everybody does it exactly the same. Some people vest a little bit more authority in their administrator, for example, to handle simple things. And then, but then you have that setup where it is there are, I can tell you in state law, it does provide that the council is the appellate body if you get an adverse ruling of the planning commission. So that's one of those things where they are required to work together. But
yeah, well, that's how it's done now.
You can set that up in your ordinance as far as the authority, the extent to which you've final authority in your planning commission on a number of things.
But we're not here to adopt ordinances, enact ordinances. We're here to revise the charter.
Well, and I don't know. I don't see anything in that charter provision that would prevent the Ascension Parish Council from addressing the relative authority in their zoning ordinance, because that's really where the meat of it is. This, I think, what this does is by having it in the charter, it would effectively prohibit the council from essentially doing away with a planning commission. I think that would be the really, in the charters that I've seen where they've embedded it, it's sort of, look, we've already stepped off into zoning and all that, and we're not, the council wouldn't have the authority to just say, we're not going to do it anymore, we're not going to, because it is a mandate of the charter that you have it. So that is the effect of it being in the charter, is its existence is required. The extent to which it's vested with authorities is found in the meat of the ordinance.
Yeah, Mr. Gadd, I think the issue here is the shall and the may. Either way, I mean, the council is going to be the final authority on what goes on the ballot anyway. If they want to change may back to shall, it doesn't really matter. The operative provision, the important part of this is that the planning commission decisions be advisory only and mere recommendations to the parish council.
Well,
that's, to me, is the guts of this.
Yeah, when I was told that, look, it was changing shall to may, there's a number of shalls in there. The first is you shall make, the first is the parish governing authority shall make and adopt and shall be authorized to amend and extend the official plan for the, I mean, that's just, all right, so that's all about the council. And then you have, and shall, again, that's parish governing authority, shall create by ordinance a planning commission.
Right.
With the powers and duties set forth in state law, and shall appropriate funds for the commission as it deems necessary and fiscally prudent. So I don't see anything in the charter provision that dictates that the planning commission have absolute authority. For example, you see what I'm saying? I don't see which shall you would change to may, other than if you said they may adopt an ordinance. They may, by ordinance, create a planning commission. But again, if you're going to have comprehensive zoning, state law requires that you have a planning commission. So,
well, I would suggest, Mr. Queeser, that we forward this. I mean, I got a motion on the floor. If we forward it to the council, council's got legal on hand, and they can, if it's deemed that it's inadvisable by the council or illegal by the council, they can make that decision. But I want this committee to make a recommendation with regard to planning commission decisions being advisory only and recommendations to the council. And that's my motion.
Mr. Lambert.
This may be a dumb question, but why do we want that?
Are you addressing that to me?
Sir?
Is that being addressed to me? Because I can answer that.
Explain it.
Why do I want it?
Yeah, no, I'm serious.
For the same reason that the vast majority of people in this parish is that the elected officials, okay, or the final say-so on this.
Okay.
Because if you want to irritate some people, the anger in this parish is not directed at the council where it probably should be. It's directed at the planning commission. And that is unfair to the planning commission, and that should be the responsibility and the duty of the elected parish council. and this parish council goes to great lengths to avoid having to make those decisions. They're an appeals board that will not hear an appeal. I want to take it out. If this is about what the people want, this is what the people want. Okay, we'll find out if that's what this is really about.
Right, right.
Okay, but that's why.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. You have another question, Mr. Lambert?
Shouldn't that, a lot of these, most of these problems be addressed by the requirements that you put for a change? And do we not need sometimes to change the requirements or stipulations to do some of these things? You know, I'm talking about a development or whatever. Is that possibly the problem? And I'm just asking, I don't know, Wade.
Well, I mean, the council, this is their job. If they want to tinker with the land
No, I know
development
they're
code,
completely
they can do whatever they want.
ultimately responsible, not
But
completely, but ultimately.
Placing
I
this
accept that.
language,
Yeah.
placing this language in the home rule charter takes away that discretion of the council. Now, they can do whatever, I mean, we can even add some qualifying language to the suggested revision to the charter amendment, that whatever legislation or ordinances need to be enacted to effectuate the charter revision, they need to do, okay? So, you know, there's a big, you know, some things should be done in ordinance, some things should be done in the charter. And in my view, this needs to be done in the charter, or the planning commission will continue to be the buffer that shields the elected officials of this parish from making those decisions that are so angry, that make the citizens so angry. And that's why.
Mr. Jarrow, sorry.
Yes, sir. And I don't have a problem with it, with his motion. I just want to make sure that we don't put something in there, and I know we said legal, it says add language in green pending legal review, and we still really haven't got it. I just wanted it in red that they get a legal review, that we don't put something in our charter that's not legal, that's all.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Cuiser, I mean, as haphazard as this process has been, if we're going to start worrying about legal technicalities now, is that what we're doing now? Okay? Forward it, let's vote on it, and if you don't want to forward it to the council, vote against it.
Do we have a second
Okay.
on this motion?
Nope, we're still discussing, but we need to get a second.
I second
in order to move on it.
I second Wade's motion.
What is the exact language?
Cinnamon, could you read the exact language again, please?
To recommend the proposed language to the council if it is deemed legal, that it would go on the December ballot.
I mean, I don't know if that satisfies Mr. Lawler's curiosity.
Yeah,
Maybe we
I
can
was,
address with him.
what is the actual, what are we sending to the
Oh,
council?
section 418.
Yes,
What
418.
should add?
The proposed changes to 418.
I don't have those in front of me, do I?
Now, you know how Doc Sally feels at every meeting.
It's in your packet.
Paranoid? No.
Do you see it? It's in-
I don't know why I didn't have that. I also think that we should really consider making it an elected official, because I know one of the complaints is that people feel that they don't have direct, I guess you'd say, access, or the planning commission does not have direct access to what the people feel, and the people cannot, relate their complaints to the elected officials by voting on them. So if we're going to have a planning commission, we should consider making that an elected position. And I will say, it's one thing that I've learned in my 2 years being on the council is it takes a lot of knowledge, a lot of specialized knowledge. I mean, in my brief time as transportation chairman, I have learned a lot about transportation, whereas before I thought it was, dang it, I want this road built, let's get it built. And I'm realizing it works with the state, the engineering, the environmental, everything that goes into it. Planning can be very technical. There's a lot that goes into it, whether it be environmental, drainage, traffic, all that. I'd like to see people that really, and I know that we have commissioners right now that spend a lot of time on their trade, so to say. And, if this is an important position to have, if we have people that are going to spend this much time, let's make them elected officials and possibly give them a salary, because it takes a lot of hard work to really become knowledgeable about this sort of thing.
I think it's something that we should explore, making this an elected position.
If you would make that in the form of a motion, I'd second it, because I think that does merit exploration.
I will make that in the form of motion. I move that in addition to the language that you have already proposed, that the position be. I don't have the exact language right now because I think we need to talk about salary. I don't want to just do this on the top of my head. I think we have to talk about salary and districts, if it's going to be 11 districts, or is it going to be, smaller districts?
Well, a suggestion, Mr. Queezer. Maybe we can throw Mr. Lawler's suggestions up on the wall on a sticky note, and we can come back to it, like some of the rest of the things. We've got a lot to talk about. I think 27 items have been deferred so far. So this is an interesting idea that I think merits further exploration. So,
well, if Mr. Lawler would yield,
I will certainly yield.
I'll make a substitute motion that Mr. Lawler's comments, we defer and put up on we'll come back to, throw that up on the wall with the sticky notes, and we'll come back to it.
Okay, but wait.
And the motion is exploring the advisability of making the planning commissioners elected positions with salaries. Are we talking about maybe adjusting the number of planning commissioners as well, Aaron? Okay.
I think so. I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay.
Well, I mean, right now, what do we have? Seven of them. Do we want to go to 11? Should it be 5? I don't know the right answer to that off the top of the head.
I think that certainly merits, I'll add that to my motion.
Okay, we have the original, we got to go to the substitute motion first. Do we have a second on that substitute motion?
Second.
Like discussion.
Okay, got a second. Now we need to discuss it. Mr. Martinez.
I mean, I think you just keep adding layers to government here, and you keep adding elected officials. So you're trying to get rid of an elected official, now you're trying to add 5 more. So, I think we're going backwards.
So it's a fair trade.
I mean, I'd rather have Mr. Pette's motion than that motion, because, add expenses, and
We're
then
gonna
you
vote
got
in a
somebody, and you're going to be putting 5 people out there in every building and developing the country. They're going to be up there throwing them donations and whatever else they need. So I think you're creating another bad situation, and I just can't go along with that deal.
Well, this is the motion. The substitute motion is to take that subject matter and place it on the wall, and we revisit that.
Mr. Chairman.
That's the motion, unless it stays, unless you want to change it. Mr. Hernandez?
I'm not trying to change it. Suggestion, since we're looking at a manager form of government. I work with a lot of people in Texas. One of the engineers that I work with is on a planning and zoning commission in Texas. They're strictly advisory. They go in, they make sure everything's being built to the code and the ordinances that's in the counties. They go to the council and give their suggestion, and then that's it. And then it's in the council's hands to make the vote. So I think I'll say to Mr. Petey that they're advisory, make sure everybody's billing to code and ordinances, and then the council has to vote it as a whole.
Okay, now we have the substitute motion. Now, Mr. Lawler's
Well,
motion.
actually, I think it was mine, Mr. Queezer, but,
Well, wait, you have the original motion.
we had a motion about an elected official.
Yeah, I
Oh.
yielded to Wade to allow, yielded to allow Wade to make the motion.
Right.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your substitute motion as we speak,
Sure.
Mr. Lawler? Okay. Now, we still have 2 motions.
Okay.
We have a substitute motion and your original motion.
All right, which one do you want me to take up?
You got to properly go to the substitute motion first.
I'll go ahead and withdraw my substitute motion. If we choose to come back to it, we're going to be here a while, we'll come back to it, okay?
Okay, so
If
you
Mr.
withdraw
Lawler's
the
okay with that?
substitute
Yeah.
motion. All
I'll
right.
withdraw that substitute motion so we can get back
All
to
right,
the original
now,
motion.
we're on the original motion. Repeat your motion.
My motion is to recommend to the council the language that Cinnamon read before that was in our packets and is highlighted in green with regard to section 4-18 of the current home rule charter. In effect, to change shall to may, and to make the planning commission's decisions, recommendations only to the parish council.
Okay, and it's been seconded by Mr. Trosclair, am I correct?
I believe it has.
All right, so, motion on the floor, then second, then discuss. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is hereby adopted. Okay, so that's number 6, item 6. Next is item 7, section 501.
Mr.
the
Chairman.
Secretary and Treasurer. Mr. Trosclair?
Mr. Pettit here had mentioned earlier before we got in discussion on section 6 about withdrawing 7 and 8, since that was his agenda items, and after the planning and zoning to go back to number 5. Is that correct, Mr. Pettit?
No, Mr. Trosclair, and this was a conversation we had just sitting here, not at Ralph's last week. But no, I recommended agenda item number 8, 9-02. I didn't forward section to item number 7, so I don't want to speak to that. But with regard to agenda item number 8, revising section 9-02, I would be happy to withdraw that and table that for later, because having reviewed our last meeting on May 21st and some of Mr. Gyro's comments about this has to do with the lessening the burden for signatories on a petition to seek changes to the charter. Having reviewed the discussion from May 21st, I think there is some information that we can benefit from, maybe firming up from the register of voters the actual number of qualified electors in the parish and some other things. So I would suggest we table that for further discussion and put that, again, defer that one for further consideration along with the others.
Yes, we had already scratched that.
No, I had forwarded section 9-02 for recommendation to the council, to get it on the December ballot. Remember last time we were all supposed to submit? What I'm saying is, I would be fine, and if it's not up to me because it's on the agenda, but I'm okay with deferring that until a later date.
Okay, is that a motion to refer?
Yes, and I'm talking about
Section 902,
yeah, agenda item number 8. I'm talking about.
procedure by petition. All right, that's a motion.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Lawler. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is hereby adopted. Okay, item 7, section 5-01, the Secretary and Treasurer. The floor is open.
Mr. Queeser, I'm not sure who forwarded that one to Cinnamon for inclusion on the agenda. I suspect it may have been one of the members who are not present tonight, but I'm not sure.
What's the pleasure of the committee?
Motion to defer.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Cazzo, second by Mr. Lawler to defer item number 7, section 501, Secretary and Treasurer. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is hereby deferred. Okay, there were some committee members, if you don't mind, there were some other comments, public comments, dealing with section 5, item 5, that's on the agenda, that if you all don't mind, I would like to, with your permission, go back to the public comments to at least have these individuals vet their opinions or articulate their thoughts. Do we have any opposition to that? Hearing none, thank you very much. Okay, we have 3 individuals. Mr. Clint Quintmore, and then followed by Kim Christie.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just wondering if the task of this committee is to write ABA's proposal. Is that what you're doing? Or you're writing the home, because it's not a Home Rule Charter Commission, so are you vetting it to, but we're obviously changing it, right? Because changes have been made since the last meeting. I mean, this is a fluid document. So this committee, somehow, some way, even though it has nothing in the resolution on the way it was created, is writing the ABA proposal. Is that what y'all doing? I mean, it's yes or no. And if we're going to vet it today, aren't you going to have some items for the public to be able to come and comment on each section of what we're vetting? Or are we just going off the hip? I mean, how do you, what am I vetting? The concept? Or am I vetting what the changes? Mr. Trosclair said some parts aren't changed at all. So are we vetting each section? Or we're just going off the hip? I mean, is the public going to be involved in any kind of way? You know, they're going to be able to come and say, yes, I'd like to talk about change number 1, 8A, B, you know, whatever. I mean, does open laws or Robert's Rules of Order or any of that to allow the public the opportunity to come here and vet along with this committee, or does that matter? Their opinions matter? I mean, it's a pretty legitimate question, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Christie?
Hi, my name's Kim Christie, and I too feel like my due process is being limited here. For the living document, we went article by article, section by section, and now we want to just kind of like do it in a group. It's time for ABA to be extricated from this process. There are far too many conflicts of interest in the ABA proposed charter that ABA is not trying to bring to light. I will highlight just one, but I guarantee there are many more I will point out as the process moves forward. The first conflict. Vance Daigle of R.J. Daigle & Sons is on the board of directors of ABA. John Scanlon of ETEL is the leader of ABA. The charter allows for 4 of 7 appointees to come from the business community, to include the Chamber of Commerce and Rotary Club. Nicholas Daigle of R.J. Daigle & Sons is on the board of directors of the Ascension Chamber of Commerce. Janet Britton is the general counsel and executive vice president of human resources for ETEL, as well as a former board member of Ascension Chamber of Commerce. ABA charter allows for the following in Article 3, Section 306B. And I noted on this email that was sent out, it says 305, no substantive changes. Section 306 is not on here. They didn't want you to pay attention. And if you look at Section B, nothing in this section shall prohibit the parish manager from participating as a member or officer in a civic or professional organization or from service in a state-appointed office. My question is, why did they put this in here? According to the ICMA Code of Ethics, Tenet 3, I think you guys got a copy of it, be dedicated to the highest level ideas of honor and integrity in all public and personal relationships in order that the member may merit the respect and confidence of the elected officials, of other officials and employees, and of the public. So we're going to have the people who are responsible for his hiring to just fraternize with him at will, and they put it in the charter. I think that says a lot. So you see, ABA is trying to make it legal to violate the ICMA Code of Ethics. And that was a big selling point, ethics. We heard that for two days. Any changes to the charter should be dictated by the revision committee or the parish council. Retention of legal services should be directed by the parish council. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's it for Section 5 from public comments. Okay, now we revert back to item 5, and the floor is open for discussion from any committee member. Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, I suggest that we do go the same way we did with the charter, section by section, and go over this entire document, because they want it completely vetted. I talked to several council members at the Veterans Organization the other day for Memorial Day, and they said they wanted it completely vetted. So whether we vetted or they vetted, so the only way to do that is to start from section 1 and go through the whole thing. So that's what I suggest.
Mr. Lawler.
Is that made in the form of a motion?
Yes.
And I would just amend that saving for section 3.06, which should have been included in this, that we only vet sections that there will be no change. Otherwise, we're going over things that we've already gone over. Only vet the sections that ABA changes. No, I agree, but, you know, section 6 of the Home Rule Charter doesn't get changed at all. Section 7, there are no changes. Section 8, there are no changes. Section 9, no changes. I just don't want to waste time going over the things that we've already gone over.
Right, but everybody that read more on
Yes.
that charter, we should go over it.
Mr. Hernandez.
I guess the only problem is that the chart, the ABA charter we got in the packet, I don't think it includes the changes we've made to the charter already. So you almost need to go back and shore up. Why are you shaking your head?
That's what we were talking about earlier.
Oh, never mind.
The redundancy.
The redundancy.
So, Mr. Queeser, are we suggesting that anywhere where the document we're looking at has all of the ABA suggested language is red text? So what we're talking about is everywhere we see red text, we're going to be going over that?
Chapter 1.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I would, if Mr. Martinez has a motion on the floor, I would second. I think he did have a motion, and I would second that.
Okay. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is hereby adopted. Okay, so we would start then with section 3-02. 01. Okay, I'm sorry. 3-01 creates the qualifications and residency requirement of the parish manager. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Talking to Mr. Danny, everybody's concerned about giving up a vote for parish president. So he had come up with some language about adding a parish president as a figurehead. And he gave me some legal wording I'd like to pass out to the committee. I know it's last minute, but everybody can take a look at it.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here you go, Senator. So as you can see, they made some changes because they're hearing some of the same things we're hearing about giving up votes and everything. So it's something to look at. We can vote.
I would like to comment on that.
Okay, whoa. That's, you want to read this, read it into the record?
Actually, before we get this far, may I?
This part of 1.
3-01.
Yes, it's 3-01.
So we're not talking about, it's no longer going to say qualifications? Is this, what are we supposed to be looking at here? Okay. Because I can tell you, I've got some real issues with this. This is an absolute subterfuge. You hear me? Subterfuge. Addressing the people's right to vote by putting in a figurehead to vote upon is offensive to me. So let's forward. Okay, which document are we going by? Let's get that straight first. Let's just find a document that we can look at and vet. That's the document. Can we do that? I'll make that in the form of a motion, that we identify a particular document that we're going to be working from. I'll make that motion.
Well, there's an existing motion on the floor first.
Then I'm making it as a substitute motion.
Okay. Mr. Lawler, then we'll come back.
Actually, what I've done is I've counted the number of actual sections that get changed by this ABA document. It's 24. Some of those sections of those 24 changes, one of them is just an E from a capital to a lowercase. So it's really the actual substantive changes are much less than that. You know, although these meetings are advertised to the public, everyone has been, you know, the public has been welcome. They can come out anytime they want. They haven't been coming out. But I do want to give the public the opportunity to come speak on this. You know, maybe they'll hear us at this meeting and come out next time. What I think we should do is we have 2 weeks. Divide this up 12 and 12. Come back, look at it. We have some proposed amendments to it. And that way we can take on 12 sections next week, 12 sections the week after that. That way we have time to look at this. The public, you know, they can come out and speak on each one of these things. As the 3 members of the public have here today have said that they'd like to do. And that would give us the opportunity to get a better understanding of it and move forward from there. It won't delay us at all. It'll give us time to know exactly what we're looking at.
I'll second that.
I will object to that.
Okay.
And we'll discuss.
Whoa.
Because I want to discuss.
Well, excuse me.
No, I was objecting to the second, because I would
Okay.
like the opportunity for some
All
discussion.
right, let's get the process in order. Mr. Martinez, you withdrew your,
I just said we would start on section 1. This is section 1, 301, with the parish president, adding a parish president to the manager. So, and it's a figurehead. We just well go back to minority if we're gonna go to that, and just gonna have a figurehead, pay him to walk around and look pretty. I mean, that's basically, if he's gonna be full-time, what is he gonna do the rest of the time? So,
Mr. Quezar?
Okay.
And that's it. I mean, we need to have a working document at some point. We
Yes.
have to have a document, that's the document. So and that's the motion I was trying to get a second for. Can we identify the document, and that's going to be the document we come back and vet? Well, I was just handed this. What is this I was just handed by Mr. Hernandez? Is that part of ABA's proposal? Anybody want to weigh in on this from ABA?
So we have in our yellow packet that we're all getting, we have, I guess, the latest version of
Yeah,
ABA's
this is
full
something that
document
Jamie
Wade.
and I talked about.
And
You
then,
mean the yellow packet that we were handed, that
That's
was on here
correct.
when I got here
That's
at
correct.
4:45?
That's
That one?
correct.
Okay.
Yep. And then, what Mr. Hernandez just handed out, he wanted some discussion on this Home Rule Charter Committee, being with some testimony of the experts and public feedback, let's talk about having a parish president as a chairman of the council, a figurehead, so forth and so forth, in addition to the parish manager. I think he's wanting to have a conversation on that.
Well, I'm more than willing to have a conversation, but I need to know what the topic is first, okay? So we still need to define what is the working document that we're going to be vetting. Because I just laid eyes on this an hour ago. So,
okay, you do
so
have.
let's define the document. Before we leave here, can we decide what the document is? And then the reason I objected to Mr. Lauder's motion, I'll be brief here, is that we're going to take these 12 sections and we're going to get through that in a meeting. How do we know how long it's going to take to vet? I got a lot of questions. I'm sure some people, these three speakers you talked about, Mr. Lauder, have a lot of questions. I know I got a lot of questions. Okay? So, and it wasn't just, Mr. Martinez said he ran into some councilmen. We had council members at the May 3rd council meeting that said they were not going to support unless it's thoroughly vetted. Well, I mean, what is thoroughly vetted? You're going to arbitrarily say we're going to take up 12 sections in one meeting. We have not kept that pace up when we vetted the actual charter. Okay, so that's setting an arbitrary, and maybe this is, I don't know, maybe this is the way it's supposed to go. I don't know. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Mr. Lawler?
Just the reason I was saying that, it would give us some time. I mean, as Ricky Bobby would say, with all due respect, we've already, said that we're going to look at a section at a time before, and we didn't know how long this would take. When we looked at the original charter, we didn't know how long it would take. So, that's nothing different than what we've already done. Every time we said we're going to look at this section, we didn't know how long it would take. We don't know how long this is going to take. We may be here for 4 hours one night. That's okay. It'll give us the time to look at it. It'll let the public know exactly what we're going to look at and when we're going to look at it. So if more than 3 people want to come speak, they're welcome to. Right now, all we've got is candidates coming. We don't even have the general public coming. So that, I would like to see more of the general public here.
I believe that to be a tenuous argument, Mr. Lawler.
What? What part of it?
What you just said, I find all of it to be a very tenuous argument.
Okay, let's bring it back to dead center. In fairness to the process, I would hope that we would consider that we've been given documentation this evening, and the public would like to comment. Also, we've always invited their input. So, in our opinion, collective opinion, let's, to the best of our ability, do what's right and do what's fair to this process. Mr. P.T., you brought up several good comments.
Well, thank you, Chairman Cuiser.
Not too often, but I got you today.
And I want to add a question for Mr. Lawler. Is Ricky Bobby from Mountain Brook, Alabama, or is that?
Anyway, this is a lot sprung on us, and there's no way we're going to do this tonight. There's no way. And I don't know if it'll take 2 more meetings to get through this and vet it properly. We're going to have to anchor ourselves down. If you want to walk through the sections as prescribed, then and vet them accordingly, then let's have the right process as we've been trying to do even when we started reviewing the Home Rule Charter. So we have to extend the same process to this document because it is the will of the committee to vet it, as I appreciate it. Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to, I guess I'll make a motion for ABA to put all of this in one document, what they want us to vet.
I will second that motion.
And we get it to Ms. McKay before the weekend, so that way everybody would have time to look at it. So when we come here on Monday, we got a document to look at. I agree with you, Mr. P.T., that probably not the best way to do this, but.
Is everybody on the same page with that thought? Mr. Lawler, Mr. Trosclair.
I don't disagree with Mr. Hernandez. I just think there's a little bit of some confusion there. So I think what I understood from Mr. Hernandez is that he sought some legal advice on some options for this committee to consider. I don't think what we were just given was ABA's change again to the charter. It was some, after hearing multiple experts and multiple study, he sought legal advice, and these are options for us, the Home Rule Charter Committee, to make possible changes to a better sentence product. So I think there's a little bit of confusion there, although I don't disagree with your motion.
Maybe I don't know who to address this to, since if ABA can make their, whatever the document's going to be, can we make it publicly available for any, if it's 3 or if it's 30,000, okay? If the people of this parish want to view it, they'll have the opportunity to view it, okay? So whenever the final version is, this committee's going to get it. Can we ensure that whoever in the public would like to get it has access to it? However that would need to happen.
That's recommendation. Mr. Martinez.
I recommend once we get this next document, there'll be no more amendments or anything else sent to us, just like we got the emails this past week, and then this is confusing things. So if we could just get all those documents together one time and then don't get any more surprises.
Well, tomorrow's Thursday, and by the close of work Friday, we need to have that document into Cinnamon, and she can then forward them to us. Is everybody on the same page about that process? Okay, Ms. Cazzo, then Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, I think that's all a great idea. The only thing I would ask is that there are obviously a couple, more than one way to do what ABA is proposing, and so, and I think all of them, both of those ways, or any number of those ways, need to be looked at. So I would ask that they not choose any one particular document, but let's put this in a fashion that says, 3.01 can read this, or it could read that. And then we could discuss it amongst ourselves and have, I think it would be helpful to everybody.
Yeah, just some kind of working document, that's the working document. Whatever it says, you want to have 50 options, that's fine. Yeah,
Yes.
right. And we're all working off the same document. So I would second that if that was a motion.
Thank you.
Okay, it's moved by Ms. Council, second by Mr. P.T., that the ABA submit its final document holistically and completely to the best of its ability to the Secretary of the Committee, Cinnamon, by the end of by Friday of this week. Mr. Gyro, question or comment?
Yes, sir. Comment, question, whatever. Well, question.
Okay.
I'm confused. So I have a document of ABA that was dated October 17, 2017. Am I missing something, or is that it?
They got an email this week and then this last week.
I saw, so we had a change brought up this evening, but, and then the email I got today was for just talking about the changes, if you were going to vet it, what areas didn't have changes and which ones did. But, this document's been in our hands since day one, so I thought that's the document we were going to vet. If I'm wrong, I need to know. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. All right, any opposition to the motion on the floor? Any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none. Motion carried.
Motion adjourned.
Okay. It's been moved and adjourned, moved in second that we adjourn. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. Meeting's adjourned.